This episode of the New Medical Nomads podcast is brought to you by Nomadicare. Now, personally, I love Nomadicare. I've used Nomadicare, and I recommend the company to all new travelers. What Nomadicare does is it takes the fear out of getting set up with a bad recruiter, which is the biggest fear that you have jumping into this journey. So they sit down, they interview recruiters, they vet them, get them on a list, and then provide them to you as a free service, as a free recruiter matchmaking service in order to get you started on your journey. Now, usually you only get 2 recruiters going through Nomadicare, but being a listener of the show, you can get 3. So this is how it's going to work. You go to nomadicare.com/Dylan. You will get set up with 3 recruiters to be on your dream team, as well as a guide to get you started on your journey.
The second sponsor of the show is TravCon, the Travelers Conference. I'm super excited to announce them as a sponsor of the show. TravCon was there for me before I got started as a medical nomad, and now I'm actually involved with the planning of the event. So super aligned, super congruent. I've been promoting them before they were even a sponsor, and so I'm excited to have them on. So there are 3 main reasons that you should go to TravCon this year. Number 1, value. This is the cheapest conference to go to as a medical professional. And also the only place that I've ever felt like royalty when you're walking in and all these staffing agencies and all these recruiters want to talk to you and you're bumping elbows with these travelers and they're interested about your story, about where you're coming from and what you're doing. And it's overall just a really good feel-good event. Number 2 is education and growth. So this conference was founded on the realization that there's a lot to know to be a medical traveler, to be a medical nomad. And so this is where you go to get the most updated tax information. This is where you go for those really niche specific questions on what's it like to travel in an RV and what's it like to travel to Hawaii. And then 3rd, community. This is where a lot of my traveler friends that are very near and dear to my heart right now, this is where we met. So this is where the relationship sparked. It's also one of the only places that you get to go to and see the leaders and meet the leaders of the industry, both on the staffing agency side and on the traveler side, and also get to meet your recruiters face-to-face that you've been working with. So TravCon is always in September every year. TravCon is also always in Las Vegas. The link is going to be in the show notes for you to get your ticket. I'll be at TravCon. All my friends will be at TravCon. I hope to see you there. Hey Nomads, this is Dylan coming at you from San Diego. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the New Medical Nomads podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dylan Callier, going into the negotiations series and why bad travelers get stuck with bad recruiters. And so I'm going to start this episode with talking about kind of my first TravCon experience. And so it was the first day of my first TravCon experience. I showed up to this kind of after party hosted by one of the staffing agencies, and it was specifically for kind of allied departments, and so it was all therapists. And so I ended up sitting next to a seasoned traveler and speaking with her, and I was so fascinated, and she was talking, and she's like, "Oh, you're a new traveler. You need to sit down. I'm going to tell you how this industry works." And so I was really interested. I was wanting to learn a lot, and she was so bravado about everything. And yes, there was drinks involved, and basically talking about how you need to tell recruiters that you're not going to take a minimum of, I forget the amount, but just this grandiose amount, like this is what you're expecting. And if they don't pull through with it, then you're just going to go to the next recruiter because they're all the same anyhow. And so it was very, very aggressive. And so there's a difference between assertive and aggressive. And that was very aggressive. And at the time I was a new traveler, or just about to get into traveling actually. And like, wow, she has it figured out. And so I'm going into this thinking like, yeah, I need to be, I know I'm kind of like really empathetic, and I tend to feel for this and get fall victim to guilt tripping, like I did. Quick story on I was on my second contract, and there was a kid outside a movie theater. I was going to see one of the new Marvel movies, and this kid comes up and says, "Hey, I don't have any cash to play games with my friends. Can I please borrow some money so that I can go play video games?" And I ended up just yeah, I know how it is when you can't play with friends. I ended up giving him some cash to go play some arcade games with his friends, and then later on I was realizing he probably does that every night, or at least his friends go there and then they take turns kind of going out. And so I'm a sucker. I know it. I kind of get guilt tripped pretty easily. But going into this, I was like, yeah, I know this about myself. I know I need to be more aggressive. I need to be more like her, and I need to get the money I'm worth. And kind of this really, really hard, strong entitlement that I think is really bad to have. One, because that's when you're entitled, you're a bad traveler, and people don't want to work with you when you're that aggressive. And so step number one, bad travelers, if you choose to be a card shark. So thinking about that poker table scenario again, where you're sitting at the table, because it can go both sides. If you're a veteran traveler, the burnout rate for recruiters is very high. A lot of them are starting new. So it could be a switched role. So where instead of the recruiter who's been doing this for a while is taking advantage of a new traveler, you can now have a veteran traveler start trying to take advantage of a new recruiter. And so if you are a card shark, the number one rule about being a card shark is that you're known as being a card shark. So if your reputation out there is that you are really aggressive and you are really difficult to work with, the best recruiters are not going to want to work with you. The ones that are willing to just give it to you, like, this is what we have, you either take it or leave it. And if you're not willing to make that relationship with them, because that's what they want, they like nice conversations with all their travelers, they're not going to work with you because you're a card shark. And so if you choose to be that aggressive and to really just nickel and dime every little thing that kind of comes out of them and do it in a way that's very belittling, or it's also the way you communicate. If you're coming across as calling them a liar and like things like that, even if you're not saying the word liar, but you're implying it, and they're giving you the best that they have, then they're not going to want to work with you. And so that's why bad travelers get stuck with bad recruiters, because then it's the pot that isn't wanting to elevate this industry. It is the ones that are wanting to keep it the same way, that keep those gains, keep those back and forths. And that's why they get stuck with each other. And then the rest of us that are wanting to see this industry turn out better, we're over here having a great time doing the both party dance because we got a high bill rate. So yeah, I have it here in the notes. So a good recruiter, a great recruiter, the best recruiters will not work with a brat and will not work with a snotty traveler. So if you are one of those individuals that are trying to go into it really hard, like that veteran traveler almost tricked me into, not tricked, that almost convinced me that that's how this industry is run. It's bad news. And it's not only a disadvantage for you for earning more money long-term, but it's a disadvantage for this whole industry, because now we have those individuals that are still playing the same old game, and they're still playing those same old games and taking advantage of new travelers. And so that is my feelings on bad travelers and bad recruiters. There's other ways of being a bad traveler. If you are one of those that ghost, say you have a recruiter on your list, you've been talking to for a while, all of a sudden they have a job and they can't get a hold of you, and now you're going with another recruiter, like, just tell them, hey, I don't want to work with you anymore. Actually, your company doesn't seem to find the jobs that I want. Be direct, be communicative. They don't like ghosts. Two, if you're really slow with paperwork, sometimes there are extenuating circumstances, but if you want to be a good traveler, you have to be really quick with paperwork. And so knowing that this industry moves fast, so you need to be really fast to get all that stuff in order to get the job that you want. When you're both working really fast, when you're both hustling hard, that's when you land the jobs, that's when you land the dream jobs, the dream locations, and both sides win. So those are some other examples of how to be a bad traveler. I think I'm going to have fun and do a separate episode eventually on how to be a bad traveler in general, and go into more of the points. But that's not this part. This is the negotiation series. So bad travelers, they will go out and be really aggressive and really nasty and snotty and bratty. So don't do that. Be a good traveler. Be a medical nomad. And all you guys, if you enjoyed this episode, you can find more at Spotify and iTunes. You can catch the early episodes on YouTube. And thank you so much for all the reviews, all the likes, all the comments. The more engagement these things get, the more people that we can help, the more new travelers that we can help, the more veterans who are maybe in that old game mindset. I'm totally stereotyping here. I love you, veterans. I learned so much. But for those that are in the old game mindset, maybe they will see this and maybe they will realize that it's actually a disadvantage. So all you nomads, thanks so much for your support and have safe travels.